What's up, guys? Jamie Schmidt, Key Realty. Welcome to Schmidt Got Real. I always want to do a YouTube channel, and I always drag my feet. I don't know how to edit. I don't have time. I finally don't give a shit, so I'm just gonna put it up as is. It can be a channel where we can talk about real estate, renovation, or whatever the hell I feel like. Today, we're talking about windows. So, for those of you who don't know, we bought a 19, good God almighty, 1853 Italianate in the village of Manchester. And one of the things we needed to do was the initial, basically weatherproofing the house. And one of the things we had to do, we had paint, which you can't see, but we painted all the trim that's up here. And the other thing was this window on the garage, which is rotten as AF. So, but one of the things it did give me, I believe it's a repurposed window, and we think the garage was added in maybe the 1950s, according to some of the wood that was used on the inside. But they repurposed a window, and they also repurposed one that's up tall, which I'll show you in just a little bit. But they used an actual older window, which is really cool because it gave me my first opportunity to glaze a window, which I've never done before. And I like to learn how to do new things. The reason why I wanted to pursue it is because I'm trying to convince my husband to keep the original windows that are in the rest of the house versus replace them with some more energy efficient windows. In the work that I've done and the research that I've done, I do know that older windows actually with you only lose about 10 to 20% of your heat loss in a house through your windows. And a majority of it goes through things like the attic, through doors with opening and closing, through cracks, through light fixtures, through the floor, through lots of other places. So if you're hoping to save money by replacing all of your old windows, your single paned glazed windows with new energy efficient ones, you're actually throwing money down the toilet. Just by getting some low E storm windows and putting them either on the exterior, the interior, which you can do, or both, actually gets you equal to our value. Than if you were just to replace the windows, and it costs about a quarter of the price, which is kind of cool. And then you also are, oh, did you see that? That was my notes. Yeah, they flew right in front of the camera. You're actually, not putting a bunch of shit into the landfill. A majority of the windows are built with old growth timber, which means, and I've done a video on Facebook where we talk about that, the grain is much more dense. It actually takes a lot more exposure for it to deteriorate, to rot, versus like some of the aluminum clad, the newer windows. Even if they're wood windows that are clad, the problem is that the moisture gets between the aluminum and the wood, and it doesn't allow it to evaporate. And because it's not old growth timber, it actually will rot faster. The seals on double and triple pane windows, on average, I mean, if you're just going to get some like wall side windows or whatever, really they don't last that long. Look at a lot of the new builds. When you look at a glazed window, glazing is going to last you a long ass time. The reason why I know this is because if it's done correctly, it will last you dozens and dozens of years. And the important part is the glazing, the painting, and basically just sealing in the window. But one of the things I thought we would do in order to kind of educate you, and I was educating myself, is first of all, parts of the window. So, and I'm going to grab my camera, so it's going to be shaky, sorry. One of the things that we want to go over are the different parts of the window. So as you look at, and I'm going to stand back so you guys can see the full window. So as I stand back and you can look at the full window, you can see that this is a double sash window. This whole entire bottom part window, this is the sash. I have to do it in reverse. This whole thing right here, that's the sash. So there is an upper, which is up here. This one is doesn't move. And the lower sash, this one does go up and down. This bottom part here, that's the sill. And then you have the exterior casing, as you can see here. Oh, and here's that window that I was talking about. Right up here. Boink, boink. This one has a glazing on the inside, and it is a non-moving sash. Each one of these little sections right here, speaking of terminology, each one of these are called a light, L-I-T-E, or if it's a glazed window, it's called the glazing. The glazing isn't actually the shit that you put around to hold it in. The glass is what's actually the glazing. That's why the stuff that we use is called a glazing compound. And this is all the stuff that I had to paint recently because it was all like flaking off and looked like ass. Anyway, so as we look here, one of the other issues, or not issues, but things to kind of teach you. So these bits here, these are called muntins. And people kind of get muntins and mullins confused. So the difference is, if I were to put another window next to it, the separating piece that would be in between, that would be in here. And if there's a window next to it, that would be a mullion right here. These are muntins. And one of the reasons why you can tell is because muntins, and I'm going to show you here, I'm going to try to. Here is my shitty glazing job. This is a muntin right here. It holds the glazing on here. This in here is the glazing compound. Pretty cool, right? All right, so like I said, I wanted to learn how to do new things. I have never glazed a window before. One of the muntins, this one right here, it's kind of shoddy, but I made it work just because I don't have the wood expertise to be able to reproduce it, and there was enough of it there to hold the glazing compound. So some of the things that I used. One of the things that you have to do in order to prep the window is that you need to get all of the old glazing compound out. And one of the ways that you can do that is, let's set you back down. Do you like that? I got tomato all over my shirt. That's what I get for eating fresh tomatoes. So one of the things that you can use, tools, and this is actually one of my favorite new tools, is this guy right here. It is a Husky stiff scraping blade, because who doesn't want something stiff? This works great. It's got a slight bevel edge to it, as you can see in the reflection, or in the image, and it doesn't bend, which is wonderful. This guy actually works really well for scraping paint. It's not overly sharp, so you're not going to damage the wood, whether it's the different parts of the window. And also, one of the things to keep in mind is that you don't want to, as you're scraping it out, if you damage it, it creates another penetrating point in another place you have to fix, and you just want to be careful. So this works really great. Ideally, you want to take out the whole sash. And the way that you do it is by removing the stops. And because this window is put in kind of in reverse, the stops are on the inside. And as you can see that right there? That's Mark's tool shelfie thing. And I'm not about to crawl back there, so we're going to do it this way. Plus, I'd never done it, and eventually this window is going to be replaced by putting in something. I don't know, Mark has some kind of grand plans. I don't care. I was just more or less trying something new. And I am very proud of myself, by the way. I did a really good job for never glazing a window. Just saying. Okay. So once I get all the old glazing compound out, you want to make sure that usually what you're going to do is you're going to remove the glass. You want to clean up the glass. There was a lot of paint and other random shit on there, so I used my favorite scratcher that I have here. Got this, it was like 99 cents. I replace the blades all the time. This is one of my favorite tools I use all the time. So normally you would have the sash laying on a table. I didn't, because I was lazy, didn't care. Clean the glass, and then a lot of times what you want to do is you want to either take like a caulk, or you want to take some of the glazing compound, which I used. This guy right here works pretty good. It is a petroleum-based product, so it does leave like smudgy greasiness. It says to wear gloves. I didn't listen. Do as I say, not as I do, okay? And you want to basically create a seal as you lay the glass into laying on the actual the muntins as is holding it, and that creates an inner seal. And then you have these little things called glazing points, referencing my notes, you never know. And what those do, and I don't have one for an example, I'm sorry, the ones that were in the windows are actually in really good condition and still holding. You do them about every 8 inches or so. With the smaller windows, the smaller lights or glazing, you didn't really need more than one per on each side. The one down here had several that were put into the window. Basically what it does is a point that goes into the, whether it's like it goes into the rail or into one of the muntins, it holds the glass into place. The reason why you want to do that is because even if the glazing compound fails, you don't want the glass to basically fall out. And then what you're going to want to do is, and this is one thing that they don't show a lot in, like if you were to Google it, how to glaze windows, is you want to make sure that you degrease the window, even though you're putting like a greasy shit on it. But you want to make sure that there's no additional like fingerprint oils or dirt or anything that's going to make the glazing compound not want to stick to the glass and to the window itself. Then you take your handy dandy stiff tool, take the glazing compound, which really it kind of is like putty. You want to keep it at room temperature, and if it still is not working kind of like what you want it to, here you can see here, I flattened it in there, but it's kind of like playing with Play-Doh. This is like grown-up Play-Doh, dudes. Like you can roll it, you can make snakes out of it, and then put it in. So basically what you're gonna do is, and then you mush it in. I wouldn't recommend putting it in just like laying it in there, because you're not actually getting it into the cracks. There's a lot of times there's channels inside of the windows. It's basically something for the glazing compound to kind of grip onto, which is nice. So you get it in there, and you're going to use your stiff tool, and then you're going to basically slide down. You want to do it at a 45-degree angle as you go down. The reason why is because you don't want it to stick too far out above, because if it's too tall, like if you get a really shitty angle, here I'll show you. So by the way, there's like this giant hole down here that makes it really hard to stand by this window. You don't want it to be too tall. And you can tell like the inconsistency, like obviously I've never done it, so it goes lower here and gets higher here. But you can see it from the inside if it's too tall. One of the cool things about glazing compound, especially this petroleum-based type, is that it will take about a week for it to dry. One of the things you want to do is you can take mineral spirits, or depending on the humidity, you can actually smooth it out with your finger. So you can see the glazing point right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's a little metal thing. That means that I couldn't go any farther up that, or any farther down than that. You want to make sure it's smooth. And for having never done it before, it was actually not that hard. Oh, and you can tell, see, look how rotten this window is. Isn't that lovely? Even on the sill. Yeah, it's all going to get replaced. Now, one of the things that you can keep in mind is that if you do have windows, you can take the sash out. So this particular part of the window of the sash is called the stile, and this is the rail. You can replace these. You can take them apart and like have these replaced. All of the bits of the window can be replaced. So I am in the process where I put this on yesterday, and you can see, let's see if we can get you an angle where you can see, like the windows look kind of goobered up, like reflective, like there's junk all over the windows. That's because, again, it is a petroleum-based product. So one of the things, you want to kind of leave it like that while the glazing compound gets harder. And the reason why is because we want it to cure. Once it cures, this lighting is amazing, isn't it? Once we get about a week going, you can then paint over it. You really want to make sure not only are you painting over the sash, the muntins, and you want to be painting over the glazing compound. It's just another layer of protection to help make sure that there's no water penetration, and then that shit's gonna last another 100 years versus some of the newer crap that you put in you have to replace after 15. Again, big proponent for having and using older windows. Yeah, so I always encourage you guys to make sure that you consult with those who are in the professions and in the trades, and also encourage trades, those who have kids. I am by no means a licensed contractor. I'm just a real estate agent who loves old houses renovation, and I love to learn new things. Sometimes it helps to start a conversation. Sometimes it helps to start your education and makes you that much smarter of a consumer. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them below. If you have something you want me to talk about that, hey, why not? Just let me know. Until next time, history can be a place that you can call home. Bye.